Hey everybody, this is Coach Jerry and I want to welcome you to this week's Friday message. Today I want to talk about overcoming our fear of failure. I meet so many people that walk around with this fear embedded so deeply in their spirit that it actually prevents them from becoming successful and reaching the goals and dreams that they have for themselves. You know, when I was building my business and I started out 23 years ago, as many of you have heard my story, I started out in a 300 square foot guest house. And 4.5 years later, I opened up a 2,200 square foot office. It was the very first office ever opened up in my company here in the desert. And it was so special to me. It meant something to me. It was a symbol of all that I overcame, all the negative people telling me you can't, you won't, you shouldn't, what are you thinking? It really meant something to me. And in 2006, I went through my life challenges. I ended up going through a divorce. I ended up almost committing suicide. And I ended up losing every leader on my team, in essence, losing my business. And the hardest thing for me was to have to let go of my office. I remember that day so vividly. It was one of the worst days of my life. It was like I was letting go of something that was a part of me. And I remember moving down in my office building to a 250 square foot office. And I sat there one day just crying, thinking to myself, Jerry, you are such a failure. And that day I was online reading an article that somebody had wrote about the great Michael Jordan. And he asked this interesting question: do you believe Michael Jordan is a failure? And I thought to myself, a failure? Michael Jordan is arguably one of, if not the greatest basketball players that has ever played the game. He is a 6-time world champion, a Hall of Famer. Of course, he's not a failure, but yet Michael Jordan has missed over 9,000 shots in his career. Michael Jordan has lost over 300 games. 26 times he was called on to take the game-winning shot and he missed. And in the article, Michael Jordan says, I have failed over and over and over again, and that's why I succeed. And see, that's when it clicked to me. That's when it got into my mind that I have never met anybody in any business, anywhere, that has not failed along the way to success. But failing at something doesn't make you a failure. The only time we truly fail is if we quit. And so many times we get those two things mixed up in our own minds. The great leadership trainer John Maxwell says, the difference between average people and achieving people is their perception of and their response to failure. See, it's how we perceive it. It's how we respond to it. I've always said that what happens in our life, in our business, the challenges and obstacles that we have are not what create our problems. It's how we choose to respond to those things that create our problems. I remember when I was teaching Josh how to ride his bike for the first time without training wheels. And I knew he was going to fall at least one time. And I remember holding his bike and encouraging him, and he's just shaking around, and I let him go, and he shook, and bam, he ate it, right? Well, I didn't look at him and say, Josh, you're a failure. You can't even balance yourself. That's it. No bike for you, right? We don't do that. What do? We pick them up, we dust them off, we encourage them, we get them back on the bike, and away they go. And they fail many times before they succeed in riding a bike. But how many times do we let them fail? As many times as it takes for them to be a success. And it's amazing how we'll do that with our kids. But in our own life, we don't do the same. We have a failure in our business, You know, we have parties that cancel, people that quit, people that don't show up, people that don't follow through, don't do what they say they're going to do, and all of a sudden, we're a failure. You know, what's wrong with me? Man, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And we start beating ourselves down with all our negative self-talk instead of understanding that failure are stepping stones to success. That we're all going to fail along the journey. But that doesn't make us failures. And we've got to get those two things worked out in our own mind. And you know what? When I was presented with this opportunity 4.5 years ago to start this coaching business, I would have never been prepared. I would have never been ready to take a leap of faith if I had consistently thought in my mind, I was a failure. See, I used to say to myself, Jerry, you're not a failure. You just failed at this thing. But you can get back up, dust yourself off, and keep going until success comes your way. And that's exactly what I did. And I want to encourage each and every one of you out there today that you might be beating yourself up right now. You might be talking all this negative garbage, wondering, when is it going to happen to me? You're doubting yourself. You're thinking, man, I've been here for too long, or I haven't been promoted forever, and why is everyone getting past me faster than I'm going? Stop that and understand your journey is your journey. That it's all about growth, it's all about development, it's all about getting better. And it's all about understanding that, yes, we may have some failures along the way, but it doesn't mean that we're failures. So I want you to ask yourself this question. The last time you had a failure in your life or your business, did you stop trying because you failed? Or did you fail because you stopped trying? There's a thought for you to ponder. You know, the great author J.K. Rowling, who wrote the Harry Potter series, who was once homeless, this is what she said. It is impossible to live life without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, which is failure by default. So my message to you today is very simple. If you've fallen off the bike, get back up, dust yourself off, get on it, and keep going, and keep going, and keep going, and realize that failures are just the pathway towards success. And you are not a personal failure. You have just learned other ways that things may not work well. Fix it and adjust it and do what Thomas Edison did. When they asked him, how did you feel about failing 10,000 times creating the light bulb? Thomas Edison said, I didn't fail 10,000 times, I just found 10,000 ways. The light bulb didn't work. Well, every failure is just learning another way that we can get better and make all those goals and dreams happen. Let's get out there today, my friends, and let's overcome that fear of failure. So I hope this message encouraged you and inspired you. If it did, feel free to share it with your teams. And I just want to thank you for tuning in to these messages. And I want to encourage you to check out my website at coachingthe4champions.com for more training videos and all of the future champion summits around the country. And I just want to invite you to be back here next week where I'll share another inspiring, encouraging message to help uplift your spirits and help you become the best version of yourself you can possibly be. Have a great week, everyone, and let's get out there and overcome that fear of failure. See you next week.